The Kansas Department of Health and Environment has recently released and sent out information about a new document called the Flint Hills Smoke Management Plan. Why is this document important? And more importantly, what is the purpose of this document? And in the material that the Department of Health and Environment has issued, it boils it down to three purposes. One is to reduce the impact of air quality impacts on health of people in Kansas. Two, it's to help with compliance for the requirements that the Environmental Protection Agency has in place on air quality standards. And third, most importantly, it provides an out for the Environmental Protection Agency to disregard high monitoring data of emissions from the Flint Hills during the spring burning season. There were two situations, or 4 days, in 2009 and 2010 where smoke from the Flint Hills contributed to abnormally high readings of ozone levels in Wichita or Kansas City, and in some situations other metropolitan areas outside the state of Kansas. And what's important to note in context is why or how this plan relates to those situations. When a metropolitan area has readings over several years which indicate that they're at or exceeding the national air quality standards, those cities are required to put in place certain initiatives to help lower those emissions. And in this case, in April of 2009 and 2010, those high readings counted in their average, which is what the EPA looks at. So if a city is not able to comply, they're forced to impose their own local regulations on their industries, start using low vapor fuel, which is higher on a per gallon basis, and in some cases start inspecting every registered vehicle in the area. So it can cost, and has cost, millions of dollars to those areas who are trying to meet those federal standards. So why is this plan applicable, and how it might help? One thing to note, this is a big issue to many in the Flint Hills community who rely on prescribed burning. And this new smoke management plan contains a lot of good background on why burning takes place, the ecological significance of the Flint Hills, and why there is an ecological advantage to burning as well as economic benefits to burning as well for ranchers in the beef cattle industry. But this plan is also in place on a voluntary basis. And the key component of this plan is to really identify tools and sources that ranchers and land managers can utilize, and in the spring access those to determine if they burn the next day, what's the likelihood of the emissions or smoke, what's the likelihood that that's going to cause problems for those heavier population areas. And then of course they will have the ability to maybe make different plans if it appears obvious that it'll cause problems. There is one regulatory mandatory aspect of this plan, and that is all burning other than pasture burning in the Flint Hills and in Johnson County and Wyandotte County will be prohibited during the month of April. This may not apply in 2011, but as the process goes forward, that will be a regulation that the Department of Health and Environment will put forward. So again, as far as this impact to ranchers, it is a voluntary program, and there will be considerable information distributed next spring as we get into the burning season as to the tools that are available and what landowners may want to consider. We hope that there are no situations in 2011 or beyond where the climatic conditions and the wind direction cause additional high readings in those population areas. And if so, this plan is intended to give EPA the ability to disregard that data. But we should also know that if that occurs, the stakeholders and folks involved in putting the plan together will probably be called back to the table to see what went wrong, how can the plan be improved. If you want to access the smoke management plan, it's a pretty comprehensive document. It is available on the Kansas Livestock Association website. There is much more information about the plan and the meetings that took place to put the plan together on the Department of Health and Environment's website under their Bureau of Air. So we'll hear much more about this as we go into late winter, early spring in 2011.